Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm Alan, the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast, and today's Tolkien Times is my way of bringing you a little Middle-earth every single day. Now, if the few minutes that you get here aren't enough, you're going to want to check out the Prancing Pony podcast. For more than 7 years and almost 300 episodes, we've been walking our way through the Legendarium. But let's get started today with Third Age Thursday. Now, this is a time to revisit those familiar and favorite moments from The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, or maybe even some lesser-known stories of the Third Age. I'll read a short passage and discuss it a little bit, just enough to remind us of the stories that helped most of us fall in love with Middle-earth. And today I'm going to read one of those lesser-known stories. I want to read a little bit from Unfinished Tales, specifically from The Disaster of the Gladden Fields, just 2 years into the Third Age. We often dismiss Isildur, thinking of the scenes in the Jackson films of him refusing to cast the ring into the fire, as Elrond wisely advised him to do. Isildur! And while it's true that he made the wrong decision then, still, I'm glad Elrond didn't kick him in. It didn't take him long to change his mind. He and his 3 sons, along with a group of 200 knights and soldiers, left Osgiliath for Rivendell, as Isildur had an urgent need for the Council of Elrond. So his forces came under attack by orcs, and as night fell, his eldest son Elendur approached him and said, Atarinya, which means my father, what of the power that would cow these foul creatures and command them to obey you? Is it then of no avail? Alas, it is not, Senya. I cannot use it. I dread the pain of touching it, and I have not yet found the strength to bend it to my will. It needs one greater than I now know myself to be. My pride has fallen. It should go to the keepers of the 3. Later we read, My king, said Elendur, Cirion is dying, and Aratan is dying. Your last counselor must advise, nay, command you, as you commanded Oktar. Go, take your burden, and at all costs bring it to the keepers, even at the cost of abandoning your men and me. King's son, said Isildur, I knew that I must do so, but I feared the pain, nor could I go without your leave. Forgive me and my pride that has brought you to this doom. Elendur kissed him. Go now, he said. Isildur turned west, and drawing up the ring that hung in a wallet from a fine chain about his neck, he set it upon his finger with a cry of pain, and was never seen again by any eye upon Middle-earth. But the Elendilmere of the west could not be quenched, and suddenly it blazed forth red and wrathful as a burning star. Men and orcs gave way in fear, and Isildur, drawing a hood over his head, vanished into the night. Now, that passage alone is fantastic, and we could talk about that for days, but I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit more. Further on, we read that he approached the river, Anduin. He stood for a while, alone and in despair. Then, in haste, he cast off all his armor and weapons, save a short sword at his belt, and plunged into the water. He was a man of strength and endurance that few, even of the Dunedain of that age, could equal, but he had little hope to gain the other shore. Before he had gone far, he was forced to turn almost north against the current, and strive as he might, he was ever swept down towards the tangles of the Gladden Fields. They were nearer than he had thought, and even as he felt the stream slacken and had almost won across, he found himself struggling among great rushes and clinging weeds. There, suddenly, he knew that the ring had gone. By chance, or chance well used, it had left his hand and gone where he could never hope to find it again. At first, so overwhelming was his sense of loss that he struggled no more and would have sunk and drowned. But swift as it had come, the mood passed. The pain had left him. A great burden had been taken away. His feet found the riverbed, and heaving himself up out of the mud, he floundered through the reeds to a marshy islet close to the western shore. There he rose up out of the water, only a mortal man, a small creature lost and abandoned in the wilds of Middle-earth. But to the night-eyed orcs that lurked there on the watch, he loomed up, a monstrous shadow of fear with a piercing eye like a star. They loosed their poisoned arrows at it and fled. Needlessly, for Isildur, unarmed, was pierced through heart and throat, and without a cry he fell back into the water. No trace of his body was ever found by elves or men. Now, I chose this passage today because Isildur often gets misjudged, it seems, and his conduct here is redemptive. On the Prancing Pony podcast, we've talked about how Boromir's actions after trying to take the ring from Frodo were also redemptive, and how his one line to Aragorn, "I tried to take the ring from Frodo. I am sorry. I have paid," showed confession, repentance, and atonement. And we see the same thing here. Isildur confesses his error, repents of it, and seeks to right his wrong. It's still a deeply tragic ending, but like it is for Boromir, it is a victory for Isildur over the ring. And never mind all the cool bits about the Elendilmere, that is a story for another Third Age Thursday. Speaking of which, if there is a bit of the story that you would like me to read and chat about, let me know by emailing barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. Finally, folks, join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times as I welcome another special guest to our second Fandom Friday. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, and if you're listening on a podcast app, be sure to follow and subscribe to make sure every episode gets downloaded to your device. Follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. And in the words of Faramir, go with the goodwill of all good men.